Welcome to a new debate. Today, we'll talk about sex education. Let's start.
Good morning to all the attendants. Before starting, we would like to remind all observers that right now we are going to undertake a debate about the following question. Should sexual education be taught at educational institutions? Counting with the opinions of Sister Ana Sofia Portilla, Carlos Gutierrez as a parent, and the lawyer Gabriela Velandia representing the opposition side. Hence, the psychologist Estefania Rivera, the high school student Maria Jose Marquez, as well as myself, like a medical point of view. Then, given the above, we can go ahead with the favor side first.
Well, my name is Estefania and I'm a professional psychologist, and from my expert point of view, I think it's very important to teach sex education more in childhood because educational institutions are the place where children learn and are forged as people since they spend their most time this.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Maria Jose Marquez Acosta. I am a student and today I'm here to support my ideas and my position according to sex education. Every society sexually educates its members as a part of the socialization processes. During the multiple social learning that occurs by living immersed in a culture. In this way, the current discussion about whether or not to give sex education in school overlooks the sex education that is taking place in the same school and outside of it. Since each child is born and lifelong.
Precisely, I quickly introduce myself again. I am Angie Benitez and I work as a doctor. Then, I wish to highlight my own point of view about the topic. Sexual education is, in fact, a right recognized by countries like Colombia. Therefore, should be no need to point out its importance, and our main goal as adults must be to guarantee a safe, satisfactory, and productive life, which also includes this case. Sexual education means preparing the young population to make decisions to manage situations as undesired pregnancy and STD diseases.
In the case of opposition's points of view, good day, brothers and sisters. My name is Ana Sofia. I'm a nurse, and I would like to manifest my opinion, saying that students then would be provided with knowledge they shouldn't handle, because in that sense, they won't generate any curiosity for additional things or acts. If sex education is taught in schools, it would be promoting sexual immorality and not abstinence before marriage, and what God allows is the union of two people when they are married.
Exactly. My name is Carlos Gutierrez and I am parent. And like any parent, I worry a lot about my daughter's sexuality. We parents never find what our children are being taught behind closed doors in sex education classes. Parents don't get to know what the teacher actions, attitudes or responses are during sex education classes, which means we have no control. We don't even know what our children are being taught about sexuality unless you sit in on every classes with them.
Hello everybody, I'm Gabriela Velandia and today I'm going to support the idea that sex education should only be applied to adults. Sex education in minors is a lack of morality, since it is only a measure that promotes promiscuity and the beginning of the active sexual life at a very young age, for which the bodies of the young people are not prepared because they have not yet fully developed their bodies. By giving them this knowledge at such a premature age, we are sowing in them the seeds of doubt, which is why we will be inducing that to carry out these acts, degrading the ethics and the precarious formation of values that exist today.
Here I wish to have a word. Comprehensive sexuality education empowers young people by improving their analytical communication and other skills, useful for life to guarantee health and well-being. In terms of sexuality, human rights, values, healthy and respectful relationships, and cultural and social norms.
However, there is a point being forgotten. Sex education in class attacks our religion's belief. My daughter, who is Christian, who have taught that having sex outside of marriage, contraceptive, and abortion are grown is why my daughter is forced to sit in these classes and listen to authority figure contradict all the belief we have taught her.
If they are given sexual education, they can lose their fear of God, since they will be going against His commandments. You will not commit adultery. You will not have impure thoughts. So acquiring the integrity of the person and the totality of the gift to remain faithful of the promises of baptism and resisting the temptation that come our way is the best choice. Children don't need sex education. What they need is education of chastity. Children need to learn how to say no and why this turns out to be the best for them, physically, morally, and spiritually.
Well, chastity is well proved as a useless teaching. It doesn't delay sexual practices, nor the number or the frequency they happen with. On the contrary, sexual education has positive effects since it increases young people's knowledge of their health, reproductive and sexual behaviors, and actually seems to show more signs of progress than chastity does. It is our duty to help them to be ready for their adult life, to decide to know what to do with that information. Because whether we mean to want youngsters to avoid sexual activities or not, it is impossible to eradicate them utterly. But we can make possible to them to be conscious of their attitude before having the sexual life, to understand why concepts as consent are fundamental.
Now, it's important to emphasize that minors under 14 years of age don't have sexual consent, since their mental maturity is quite low and they are not capable of deciding on themselves. It should be their parents who decide whether or not they receive this education, in addition to the majority of people who are indicated to teach it are poorly prepared and without the slightest degree of modesty, which is a terrible example for our children.
Only the church can tell you what you can do or know about sexuality when taking the premarital course. To follow obedience to divine commandments, the practice of moral virtues, and fidelity to prayer. Chastity restores us. It restores us to the unity that we have lost by dispersing ourselves. This was said of St. Augustine for us to keep it in mind.
Okay, so we don't need to be an expert to understand the importance of knowing about sexuality. And in each of the areas that it's important to educate ourselves from an early age. We can mention the concordance concern definition of sexuality from the point of view of different authors. Among of them that it seems a symbolic universe built in a biological reality, sex, according to which factors such as pleasure, intimacy, and the need for content must be taken into account, because not only sex as an organic event within the development of this mention, it also considered as a part of the personality of every human being, and is present throughout his or her life cycle. And according to the above, if it's taken into account that during the first stage, childhood and adolescence, the subject spend most of their time at school, and it's evident that importance that this scenario represents, since if the place where they provide with many of the necessary tools to carry out their development from the integral perspective, include here the component of human sexuality.
I still disagree. I think that my daughter or children doesn't need sex education. What they need is a chastity education, how to say no, and why this turns out to best from the physical, morally, and spiritually. If they spend a good time of promote chastity, the number of chaste teenagers will increase.
Sexuality implies multiple dimensions, from how people can express themselves and relate to each other with others and with themselves. Even the way of feeling and communicate emotionally and socially. About many aspects of sexuality, myths are generated, beliefs, fears, and predicate the lack of a scientific basis, but that have been transmitted as natural in life every single day. These ideas influence and sometimes condition and even they distort the ways of living sexuality. Sex education is a type of training that seeks to provide care tools before modeling behaviors. as this type of education is a part of the full recognition of the subject, his body and his feelings, as a basis of a pedagogical work.
The main consequence of sex education is clearly going to be the early start of the active sexual life of young people, which is why it's clear that the rate of adolescent pregnancies will increase, since no matter how much you know that you have contraceptive methods failed, the children are fruitful of the pregnancy of other children, because minors are still children. They cannot be given a decent home. Minors cannot marry without authorization from legal guardians.
I would strongly disagree, since I previously clarified this. Experts and socially concerned organizations as the UNESCO have declared that indeed the pursuing of chastity and the pursuing of disinformation does not stop at all the realization of sexual acts. Meanwhile, seeking for sexual education not only allows the students to understand terms as consent, but also about the tolerance of the different phases that gender and orientation could introduce to us. It is also a way of forming students into real society. But, well, since finally we run out of time, I wish to thank the attendants and the observers in the debate, and of course to assure you we will discuss this on the next possible occasion. Well, thank you.
Thank you for watching this debate. Wait for the next one.